In a popular Disney animated film, a scatterbrained fish sings a little song to herself. The words of the song repeat, "Just keep swimming," reminding herself to never give up and keep moving forward. This same mantra could be applied to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, or AFSP, whose hashtag for 2020 was "Keep Going." Suicide remains a significant cause of mortality in the United States, and the goal of the AFSP is to reduce the rates of suicide and support individuals affected by suicide through public education, research funding, policy initiatives, and support programs. The purpose of this speech is to introduce you to the AFSP and why you should contribute to their organization. In this speech, you will learn that suicide is a significant but preventable cause of death in the United States, and what the AFSP is doing to combat this. Suicide and suicidal thoughts are issues that affect the U.S. population nationwide. It affects Americans of all ages, from teenagers to the geriatric, as well as all genders and races. Over 12 million Americans reported having a history of suicidal thoughts, and nearly 1.4 million Americans have attempted suicide in the past. Suicide remains the second leading cause of death for Americans aged 10 to 34, with the only higher incidence of death occurring from accidents. A whopping 47,511 Americans died by suicide in 2019. That's one every 11 minutes. And overall, it's the 10th leading cause of death in the United States. Within Mississippi, it's the 12th leading cause of death overall, with 436 deaths by suicide occurring in 2019. This death rate is double the amount of Mississippians killed in alcohol-induced motor vehicle accidents yearly, and primarily firearms are used. This problem is exacerbated by the fact that over 74% of communities in Mississippi do not have adequate access to mental health services. Suicide is linked to depression and poor mental health, with 90% of the individuals who committed suicide having at least one mental illness at the time of their death. Clearly, suicide and depression is a major contributor to morbidity and mortality nationwide. Fortunately, 93% of American adults feel that suicide is preventable. The AFSP has a strategy to help. Founded in 1987 by families affected by suicide, partnering with scientists, the primary mission of the AFSP is to reduce the rates of suicide, specifically a 20% reduction by 2025. The AFSP is a nonprofit organization based in New York with a location focused on policy based in Washington, D.C., chapters in all 50 states, and is the largest suicide prevention organization in the United States. It is rated highly by Charity Watch and Charity Navigator for its accountability and fiscal responsibility, with the primary portion of donated funds going directly to research programs rather than administrative costs. When you join the AFSP as a volunteer or contribute financially, you know your dollars will be well spent helping fund education programs, community outreach, professional development, research, policy initiatives, and supporting families of victims. The AFSP advocates for suicide prevention through community, caregiver, school, and professional development programs such as More Than Sad, Talk Saves Lives, and Out of Darkness Walks. These programs help raise awareness, reduce stigma, and provide tools for recognizing and intervening in communities and for suicidal individuals. Despite the restrictions of COVID, AFSP has been able to keep going during 2020, funding over $5.5 million in research, holding 436 community walks, reaching 130,000 people via community programs, and helping pass 27 state and 5 federal bills related to suicide prevention. These examples cover 2020, but AFSP has been funding and raising awareness for suicide for over 30 years. In the past and into the future, you can help AFSP continue its mission of saving lives through reduced suicide rates by joining or donating today. Even if you may not be able to join or contribute to AFSP, there are ways you can help reduce suicide risk among your friends, family members, and communities. Remember that suicide is related to brain functions and mental illness, so telling someone to think positively often won't help. However, asking someone if they are thinking about suicide has not been shown to increase the chances of suicide occurring, so don't be afraid to ask. Depression, bipolar disorder, and substance use are all linked to suicide, so specific treatment by mental health professionals such as cognitive behavioral therapy, abstinence from illicit substances, or appropriate medications may help manage someone's suicidal behavior. Additionally, prevention of access to potentially lethal means of suicide, such as firearms, can help reduce suicide rates within your home or community. Supporting policy initiatives that promote access to mental health services, strengthens families, and identify and support people at risk. All reduces harm and risk of suicide in your home or community. In conclusion, suicide has had a negative impact on Americans from all walks of life, but it is a preventable cause of death. You can make a difference in the lives of your families and friends, as well as your community, and work to reduce suicide rates nationwide by getting involved with or contributing to the AFSP. As stated so eloquently in the annual report for AFSP 2020, in challenging and uncertain times, it is more important than ever that we take steps to prevent suicide and be there for those affected. Thank you for helping us to keep going, stronger than ever, as we continue to build moment in this movement to stop suicide.